Okay, the cert case review process and the chief's non-concurrence for a particular case. Mr. Harness, I'm assuming you're going to cover these.
Yes, Chair Fine. The purpose of the discussion for the cert review process is that you will be receiving approximately 4 to 5 serious use of force cases to review on a weekly basis. And so this body needs to decide how they want to handle that so that they can have the input to me to go to the Force Review Board.
Okay, so let's, I know, but the truth is we did this for the civilian cases. And we didn't have the same, we didn't have an outside timeline to deal with, but we did have to go through 200 cases. And so this case review committee met every week for several months in order to get through that. The cert cases, of course, are a lot more substantial. So I want to back up a second because there's a compliment in here. I asked at the CRC meeting, I asked Ed if he would ask the Force Review Board that he was going to the next day to table the 3 cases that we had been sent links to, but none of the links worked. And it was broken, whatever the process was, it was broken. So we hadn't had a chance as a group, as a board, I should say, to review that material. And he did make that motion, and the Force Review Board approved it, which I think is really nice, worthy of note, and spent the time talking about how their process would change and how that we would have 30 days. So now the part that I'm confused about is how that chimes in with our timeline. So I have a couple of ideas that I think should be in the mix. One is all the cases we look at now come through case review. So case review could meet more frequently and deal with more cases and get them through and make suggestions, but this body may not be able to wait 30 days. So, or we may miss a timeline and not be in the 30 days. So I'm not sure how that works. Another piece of information. Another piece of information is that Major Tyler and I and Mr. Larson had worked on a flow chart. You may remember, for those of you who've been here a while, there was a flow chart that showed how our workflow worked between the POB, the CPOA, and the police department. Changes have been made to that, so Mr. Larson and I worked on that to give, to put in what we had heard from Major Tyler, but now it is in Major Tyler's court to give it back to us and say, yes, your perceptions of what we said are correct or not correct, so that we all know how it's supposed to work. So with this change, I'm not sure how it all is supposed to work. Mr. Harness, can you give us some idea about how you think the change, what is the change that the Force Review Board made, and how would that affect our ability to give input on these cases?
Chair Fine, the discussion at the Force Review Board revolved around the 30-day time limit for cases to be reviewed by the Force Review Board, and that's from the settlement agreement. And if you recall, when we first had this issue with the serious use of force cases and the review, and we met with the parties, APD, the city, DOJ, and the monitoring team before the 4th monitoring report, we all agreed that the interpretation was once the case is submitted to the Force Review Board, it must be reviewed in 30 days. Somehow that became misinterpreted to once a case was completed, Force Review Board has to hear it in 30 days. So back to the Force Review Board meeting last week, we all reached a determination and an agreement that it means once the case is received by the Force Review Board, then the Force Review Board must see it in 30 days or review it in 30 days. So therefore, the system is being set up. So you received links for 4 cases that are going to be heard on the 10th of May. You received those. on the 10th of April. That's the 30-day window.
But we didn't actually have access to them.
No, you do. You have the access to them right now.
As of the 10th?
As of the 10th.
Okay.
So.
Oh, that's
you
right, we're only on the 10th.
Today's only the 13th.
Excuse me.
So the process contemplated is, the cases are received by Force Review Board, they're going to be heard 30 days, they're going to be distributed to all parties at the same time. So all the people on the Force Review Board, the Police Oversight Board, all the parties get the case materials all at the same time, and they have 30 days to review that and then bring their input to the Force Review Board.
Okay. So then we should have, we're going to get cases, but they're not going to Force Review Board until 30 days from when we got them.
That's correct.
Okay, so then we shouldn't have a problem, should we?
Well, time's going to be constrained, that's all.
Well, the
It's
problem is that these are coming on a weekly basis now. There's a Force Review Board set up right now in my
But they're each
schedule
30 days out.
from now until November, because they're anticipating that cases are going to be received and then distributed. So the 30 days is going to be a rolling 30 days, but it's going to be on a weekly basis.
Okay, so my suggestion is that everybody, first of all, everybody on the board will get access to this evidence. My concern is, where does the 30 days fall in our meeting schedule? So we can't vote on, online, we can't meet not in the public, nor do we want to. But that 30-day problem is a problem still for us. So we might have to have special meetings that would allow us to accommodate that, because our meetings are off by, 2 weeks
Couple
or
weeks.
something. And so, we've done it before, and this is really because of the backlog. Just in the same way that we had a backlog of civilian cases. How many cases would you guess are involved in this? Give me an idea.
Chair Fine, I have no idea. All I can tell you is that Force Review Board has been set up on a weekly basis from May until the end of November. And they anticipate there will be 4 or 5 cases per session.
Well, I am open to suggestions, you guys. I think it has to start with the case review committee, but where it goes from that, if I was not on the case review committee and I was on this board, I would not be happy with not being able to review it and vote how, it's a core responsibility that we have. So help me figure out a way around this.
Go ahead.
Madam Chair, would it be possible for us as individuals then to send our concerns to either you or Mr. Harness within that month and not take a vote as a board? Unless there is something
But
that,
we could look at that at case review. We could do that at case review.
unless there's
Couldn't
something
we?
that raises a really ugly issue, and then we might want to call a special meeting if there isn't one, scheduled in a timely fashion. That
I
would be
don't
a
want case
suggestion.
review to make a decision without your input.
Right.
So my question is, if we did exactly what you said, but we had those come to Ed, and at case review, we were able to see all of the feedback, then we could make our suggestion on behalf of the board in that way. Does that violate any rules with open meetings? I mean, the case review committee meeting is open. It's not televised, but I don't know how to solve this problem. Did you hear what we were talking about? Processing, yeah.
I'm just thinking it through.
Yeah, it's hard.
I'm
It's not
going to
easy.
slow down in making any recommendations since I
Well,
completely
maybe we
missed a
should-
provision on the ordinance.
Just restrike that, though.
So,
Maybe we
Chair
should-
Fine, I
yeah.
wanted to know, it seems like something is missing in our terms of the procedural, how we work. Because when those come to us for the for the case review, we're still only making a recommendation to the board, and he needs to have something definitive from the board to proceed
Let's-
on, right?
But that's what Sue Brown is saying. She's saying everybody in that week period reads the cases and sends their reply about
I
how
know, but
they.
that's, you still missed the
But
vote
then
part.
two case review. So by the time we meet at case review, we would have everybody's input.
Yeah,
So
that,
now
they're
we're
still
making
missing a step, though. That's right.
Yeah,
Isn't that right?
I'm trying to make it work on.
Chair Fine, I think the problem would be that if you're taking into consideration feedback from the entire board at case review, then you'd have a rolling quorum problem where you'd be out of open meeting, but you'd be circling up together with the full board on the feedback that's sent in and then acting on it. Even if the case review committee is who formally acts, I think it would pose a problem.
Okay, so I need a solution to this problem, and I don't have one. So we're going to have to take this under advisement. In the meantime, I would urge you to keep notes yourself on the cases that we're looking at right now. Keep them to yourself and let us find a solution and move forward with that.
Chair, I have a question for Mr. Harness. Mr. Harness, do you have a suggestion? Did you plot out a strategy for this? Or, I mean, you don't have to, it's just a nice,
Chair
Puzzle.
Fine, Board Member Garcia, no. The only solution that I see, and it does not involve the board voting as an entity, which is an issue, is that as you review the cases, you present your feedback to me, and I present that feedback to the Force Review Board.
Yeah, but the public is left out of that. That's the problem with that. I don't like that. The whole idea is that this is transparent for the public. So, and that's why they want us to have it in an open meeting, which is legit. So we still don't have a solution to this. We need help figuring it out. Is there some reason why we can't, I mean, the way we did our cases was that we didn't start the investigation until a certain period so that the 90 days would be, for investigation by our staff, would be in that period of time, and that would release them in a cluster to have the 30 days to do that. So we would be prepared. We were doing 40 cases at a time at each board meeting. But everybody had a chance to read it, but we were meeting in public. So, these open meeting rules exist for a reason. And as much as I want to be accommodating, I can't short circuit, and I don't want to short circuit, voting in public and voting together. So I don't know how to solve this. I'm open to suggestions from anywhere they might come. Because I don't know how to solve this problem the way it sits right now. And I don't think it's okay that cert cases go through force review without us. That's not okay with me. I don't know about you, the rest of you. Yes, sir.
Chair Fine, I may be the only one admitting it, but I can review a lot of that evidence and not really understand what I'm reviewing, nor what I'm looking at, nor what conclusion I might be able to draw therefrom. I've gone to Ed's office and looked through, stacks of paper and stacks of CDs, et cetera, and he points out things to me that I don't see because I'm not trained. He points out to me remarks in the transcripts that to me didn't catch my attention, again, because I'm not trained. And I'm not sure an hour sometime with a group of, experts or whatever would give me the training that I need. This takes months and years, perhaps, to develop the kinds of instincts. So my question becomes, what value is it for someone like me to view a pile of evidence that, having viewed it, I may have an opinion, but it's not an informed opinion.
I want to know from the other board members if you feel this, how many feel as Dave does? I do not.
I don't.
You don't feel that way?
I've had those moments, yeah.
Yeah, every once in a while, something
Yeah.
jumps out
Which is
at,
why we think it's important to talk to Ed about it in this forum. We do ask him about it.
every once in a while, something jumps out at me that I certainly would have a question about.
Right.
But I'll say that maybe 2 hours will pass of things going by that have little meaning for me.
Well,
So I'm with both Dave and the
No.
other opinion. I'm on the fence.
I don't experience that. I may have to watch the same video more than once and then read the documents that go with it. I think we have been trained to pay attention to those things. I think we're missing training as it relates to force review. And I think that that's something Sue has, and Ed has, but I don't think the rest of us have. That would help a lot in circumstances in terms of, knee holds and all that stuff that is more specific. But I think it's important that we as civilians not abdicate our role in being reviewers of this stuff. If we need to understand something I don't think we have to be professionals, but we may, if I had more use of force understanding, I think it would help me. I don't know if the rest of you feel that way.
Well, Chair Fine, if I just accepted, if I pretend that I really understood everything that I read, right? We would still have at least 160 cases between now and November. That's what I calculated, rough. And the amount of information that comes for those cases is monumental. And some of the videos, I mean, I am of the nature that I look at every single stitch of paper, every video, every second. And sometimes it's 25 minutes of looking at a white wall that the video camera, the on-body camera is just getting somebody's knickknacks in their house. But I keep it on in case it turns at one moment to show me something. Sometimes it's inaudible. But I still have got 25, 45 minutes to look at that person's white wall listening to inaudible tape. But I don't want to miss anything. I don't want anybody to say we're negligent. So just the volume of investigation that we have to do in order to get through this backlog is what concerns me. Not even to add into the mix whether we're capable of doing it or not. Or we have the right training. Just sitting there and doing it is consuming. So, and I understand that, and I want to do it right. But I think we need to hammer out a process. Maybe we have to have a special subcommittee or a special meeting of the CRC to sit down and hammer out a protocol, have the police APD with us so that that's satisfactory to them, it makes sense to them, makes sense to us. Because I don't think we can't do it here. We can't do it here.
I think that's a great idea. Major Tyler.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the board. I just wanted to offer a little bit more information. It might help you determine your path forward. We currently have approximately just a little over 40 cases in the backlog. So it won't be nearly the volume that you might be expecting based on the schedule that was set forth. We average about 4 to 5 cases, serious use of force cases a month. So once the backlog is completed, that number will go down from that amount of cases per week to that amount of cases per month. The reason we've set up the schedule this far was to allow your body the sufficient time to review the cases. So I would propose that 30 days would hopefully be sufficient for you guys to review the cases individually, convene at your normal case review, and use the same system you've used previously to do that. Now, initially, while we're working through that backlog, you might need to call a few extra special meetings to convene as a body to vote publicly, so like you said, so that there is that public forum. But I don't think there will be too many of those needed to get us through the backlog because we are making pretty good progress on that. So I just wanted to give you an accurate number of the cases that you have going to be coming your way because it's not nearly as many as your initial, if you're doing 4 or 5 a week for that long, it won't be that many cases.
Thank you.
Is it 4 or 5 a week?
It's 4 or 5 per week, a month out. So that might be reduced because some of the cases as they're being investigated, they're determined to be non-serious use of case. They were maybe categorized wrong initially, or some of those cases are also, for example, our canine reviews are done separately. Those are much more condensed. And so not all of those serious use of force cases will be large case files.
So, excuse me, you're saying the canine cases may be more intense?
No, the canine cases are handled in a little bit of a different manner. Same investigative procedure is done, but they're done in a manner that conforms to best practices for what's called a bite review. So they're a little bit different.
I just find the canine cases really long to try to go through, yeah.
Well, sometimes they're very long calls. There'll be a
Yeah.
lot of video, for example, to review.
Wow.
Well, to my way of thinking, if I may say, this is why we signed up. This is the heart of why we're here. As civilians, this is what we signed up to do, is especially in cases that, I think it's what the public expects from us and should expect from us, is that we will go through the cases for serious use of force, officer-involved shootings, and study everything. I don't want an edited version. I want to look at the wall. I don't care how much time it takes. That, to me, for me, is the reason I signed up. Because I don't know how I could report to the community and not do that. If I have questions, that's why we have a staff to do that. I just think we can't abdicate that, period. That's my thought. What is your thought, Leonard?
Well, it just sounds like we just might have to have those special meetings, you know, just put more time into it, like you said, so I'm okay with that.
It's short-term. It's a short-term thing. And, you know, if there's only 40 cases, 4 to 5 a week means we're at 8 weeks.
Okay.
That's what 40, not May to November. So to me, it's part of the deal. And I realize that it's cumbersome, but that's the deal. That's what it's for. Let's see if we can. Major Tyler, are you willing to work with us, as Dr. Garcia has suggested, that we figure this out together?
Madam Chair and members of the board, of course, we are on those timelines, like Director Harness explained. So those cases have been turned into the Force Review Board. So we are on a 30-day timeline for those current cases.
Right.
We would be happy to do whatever you guys need to try to answer any questions on those cases. But again, we have about, just under 30 days still till that first case review is
Yeah.
coming.
Well, some of us have gone through most of those cases anyway. So, Mr. Baker, I think that we need, in a conversation about how we can do this, I need your expertise there so that I know we're not violating any expectation of the CASA or the ordinance or open meetings or anything else. So whenever we set that meeting up with Major Tyler and the Case Review Committee, we need to include your calendar to make sure that we got you, okay? So that is a setup that we need done, Mr. Harness. Okay, are we done with this part for now? There's nothing to vote on, but we're going to set up a meeting, okay?